You don't know what ghetto style means right now.
This is Three Brothers Talking, by the way, and there's something weird going on right now because I can see you guys.
Whoa.
But I'm not seeing you in my computer.
Nope.
I'm just kind of seeing you
Like
with my eyes.
It's okay because we're all socially, respectably apart.
Yes, we are. We are actually respectably apart. There's the new. I like this. I like changing the terminology to being like a respectable distance instead of a social distance.
It does sound a lot better.
I'd like for you to give me my respectable distance.
I mean, that'd be like a normal bubble, I think, is respectable distance.
Well, and I was talking to somebody about it the other day, and they just said, like, you probably don't mind all this very much because you're kind of like a personal space guy. And I said, yeah, part of me is pretty okay with it because I am kind of a personal space guy.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize that until it became like the norm. And I realized, like, yeah, I'm just not I'm not a guy. This is David, by the way. And I'm not a guy that like needs to hug. When I go up to a group of people that I know, I don't need to hug everybody there. Not my thing. Never has been my thing.
Not a touchy-feely guy.
But I never realized that really until all
Jeremy
this was going on.
I'm Jeremy and I hug everyone, but I only do side hugs because, you know.
Just side hugs.
Modesty.
Yeah.
That's a respectable hug.
Faith?
Because then you're not breathing on
I don't think I hugged Faith like until we started actually dating. Like she I remember one time saying like, why don't you
just
hug
saluted
me,
or
really?
something like that?
No, like I'd always side hug.
Curtsied.
Like I was always very adamant later on in life. I tried to get better about being respectful or also like just not putting myself in any situations that could be misconstrued.
There's a lesson for young men that
I
we all
tried.
wish we
I don't know
learned
if it
earlier.
always worked, but I got better at it, especially
Yeah.
for younger females.
So I'm David.
I'm Jeremy. We went
And
backwards.
we have one more person
Yeah,
here, and that is Bitcoin owner Andrew.
I have some
Appel.
bits.
I have a couple bits.
A friend of
I don't know.
mine-
Yeah, you can't call.
a
I'm not a
Dogecoin.
Bitcoin owner because I don't own a whole coin. But
I own
can you call it? Can you say that I have bits of a Bitcoin?
I think you've got some bits.
I've got a couple bits.
He's a bit
A
owner.
friend of mine.
I've got a couple bits of a plethora of coins actually.
So Andrew, real quick, just the 411. It seems like today I saw on social media that is it Dogecoin?
Oh, it's
like
going to the
exploded.
moon.
That's the new Bitcoin.
It's almost $1, I think now.
A friend of my coworker.
What does that
Nick,
mean?
Like it's almost worth
Almost
a
a
US
1 to 1.
dollar.
Okay.
Where like it was literally like 0.007 tenths of a dollar when it was launched.
A friend of mine.
So
for
yeah, there's already
$500.
people that like, and the problem is you can't really get it anywhere. Like
Okay.
there's
Only
like,
Robinhood. I think.
Yeah, there's only like one platform.
Irony.
There's only like one or
Robinhood.
two platforms
Irony
in the U.S. that
that-
have it.
Okay.
But yeah, like there's already people that have made millions just today on that coin.
A friend of mine put $500 on it, and now it's like $2,000.
Yeah.
And he goes, I'm like, that's winning. It was like 3 months ago. He's like, I threw money in it. We'll see what happens.
Hey.
But now he's like, do I sell? And I'm like, might as well. Like, he's at the persuasion like I would be. It's like, well, we'll see what happens. Well, it's
Yeah.
$500
You
one
might. Yeah. I was
time,
like, you might as well let it. Let it.
worst
see.
case, it dies, and then you're out the money. That's funny anyway.
Yep.
It's been all monopoly money.
So there's the Three Brothers Talking crypto segment.
We need a blockchain segment and all that. I read a book. I'm reading a book about that.
This-
The Life After Google.
This podcast is now officially a non-fungible token. Right? I don't know how that works. Do you just declare it? Is it like declaring bankruptcy
It's just like it.
with Michael
think-
Scott?
No, I mean you have to actually create something.
You have to like create something and then create it with a blockchain
Yeah.
code,
Can we
right?
make Brocoin?
Well, and some third parties are going to have to tell you that it has value. So
I have
so
a third party.
us just declaring it doesn't mean anybody's going to give us some money
I don't
for
know.
I didn't just say
It all
I
starts
declared it.
somewhere, Andrew. It all starts somewhere.
So that is actually funny because the tattoo artist that I go to posted a picture the other day and he said getting into the world of NFT art. And so he's big into all this stuff. He's a good guy and not a shock to me at all that he would get into all this stuff. But he posted a thing about somehow the art that he'd made was a non-fungible token art. And I just do not get it at all. Good for him. I don't know what it means.
I don't know. Much
It was
about
cool
that
to
either.
look at.
Yeah.
It's cool to look at. Like most of the stuff he draws. But
I think
here
it's
we
pretty
are.
Cool.
That's pretty
Yeah.
much it.
Crypto's a thing.
It's a thing.
Everybody's-
That's all I'll say about it.
It's a thing, and that's just
We'll
about all
see.
I know about
Maybe
it.
we'll start working on a Three Brothers coin.
I'm
3
thinking
BC.
A bro coin.
Yeah,
might
3
work.
BC
I
could
love
be
it.
out there pretty soon.
3 BC, 3 BT,
Three Brothers coin.
BW, 3B.
Does it
We're
have
an
to be
empire.
called a coin?
Has to.
Like, can I come up with a
No.
cryptocurrency that's
Well,
like not a
what would you
coin?
call
No,
it?
yeah, they
A
have
3
them
bro
all.
bill?
Like they have,
Yes.
there's ones like Ethereum isn't
Ethereum.
called anything. There's
But it works
Maker
better
is
with
one.
a coin because
Yeah.
it's like, hey, give me 3 Ethereums.
yeah.
What's that?
Sounds like something from like World of Warcraft.
Yeah, it does.
Can you
hand me
It's
some Ethereum,
it
please?
sounds like in
it
Skyrim or something like that.
because of
Oh.
Ether. That's
Yeah,
exactly.
it doesn't
And-
technically have to, but
It does.
yeah.
It does.
Well, here we are.
Anyway,
Anyway, we're back in the same room, everybody.
That was
Yeah.
a side tangent. It's
We
good to
are.
see you guys. It's been a while.
Yeah.
It's been a week.
It's been
it's been a long week.
It feels like it's been a very long week.
yeah.
Lots has happened.
yeah, since the last time we were together. Is that what you're saying?
I don't
Or
know.
just since we saw each other? It's been a
Just
week.
since we saw each
Oh.
other.
Yes. Yeah. It has been, I realized because I have a different computer than before the pandemic, I realized I haven't set up the whole recording on this computer. So this might be the worst
Are we
sounding
recording?
that we are. That's
Okay,
for sure.
good. We've been through that before.
But
Yeah.
this might be the worst sounding recording we've had in a long time,
Or it could be the best.
or it could be the best.
I'm gonna be optimistic.
Yeah.
It might be fantastic.
Wouldn't it be great if it was way worse and people were like, you should just do.
Go back
we
to
should
your
just
old computer.
go back to your basements and separate.
They're gonna say,
how
"Are
we
you
do
guys
it."
breathing into your mics?"
Mhm.
All I hear
Yeah,
is
I haven't
breathing.
been used to like having a microphone in my face.
I keep
Exactly.
turning my head. to
I might be
breathe.
really bad at it.
Good.
now.
And I need to breathe. Speaking of which, I listened to Need to Breathe for the first time in a long time, and they're good.
There you go.
Good
Hot
little
tip.
tangent.
Hot tip, they're good.
So here we are tonight. We're not here to talk about Guam capsizing and falling into the ocean.
Could happen. A lot of people.
Dave, it could happen.
It could happen.
Ask the representative
Respectable.
from Georgia.
The representative from Georgia. If you haven't heard this, I'll probably insert the sound for that right about now.
This is a island that at its widest level is 12 miles from shore to shore, and at its smallest level or smallest location, it's 7 miles between one shore and the other. Is that correct?
I don't have the exact dimensions, but to your point, sir, I think Guam is a small island.
Very
relatively.
small island and about 24 miles, if I recall, long, 7 miles wide at the least widest place on the island, and about 12 miles wide on the widest part of the island. And I don't know how many square miles that is. Do you happen to know?
I don't have that figure with me, sir. I can certainly supply it to you if you'd like.
Yeah, my fear is that the whole island will become so overly populated that it will tip over and capsize.
We don't anticipate that.
That video.
So you just heard the representative from Georgia go through some great stats about Guam, about how the rough square miles that it has. What was it? He was just going on about
Yeah.
like it's this long, right? Would you say it's this long? Yeah, yes, it is this long. Is it this wide?
Is this wide? Yeah.
And the population density, we're worried about that because it could capsize and go into the water.
The fact that that's a discussion just makes me sit there and think,
Was
man,
that-
people elected him.
That actually happened.
I'm
like,
paying
he
the
graduated high
salaries.
school.
I'm paying the salaries of both the people who are in this conversation.
Well, the one
That's
guy is
what I
like
think.
obviously sitting there like, I don't want you to sound stupid.
Oh,
but you
his-
sound
his
like an
response. His response is just, "We're not worried about that."
idiot. Yeah, we're not worried. And the guy keeps going on. It's
the
like
guy's
the
like,
fact
well,
that-
I am.
I am worried
I'm
about this,
worried.
okay?
Yeah.
You might not be, but I'm worried
I'm
about
worried.
I
this.
feel like it's like with our kids. They sit there and like, Dad, but did you see this? And it's like, yeah, it's fine. Like
Yeah.
it's no big deal. But Dad,
Well, isn't that something a
Well,
kid would say?
yeah.
Is this land might tip
Like,
over?
like Dad, say bye. Like,
Dad, how come the beach doesn't fall into the water?
Yeah.
I'm not
Yeah,
worried
'cause-
about that, son.
Yeah, and he's like, but
it could happen.
It's
It could
funny
happen.
because you could tell like one or two of his aides definitely gave him like those couple facts about
They
Guam
gave him
heading
something.
into it,
Yeah.
and that's all he had to go on. And he was
they
like,
thought it was a joke. Like, we're
Yeah.
going to razz him.
And he's
Fast facts
just
about
so
Guam.
you know, it's this wide and this long. So
see what
that's
he does
pretty
with it.
small,
Let's see what he
right?
does.
Like,
It's like as if they said, all right, just picture it like this. It's this wide, it's this long, and if it were a boat,
yeah.
it might have some trouble staying upright.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh,
I wonder if it
I'll
was
take
a
that.
I got
to
that.
I'll take that to the brass.
I need a committee to do something, guys.
Oh my goodness! I know. Let's study.
Yeah.
Let's start a commission to study
Let's
the
start a
likelihood of
commission
Guam
about Guam
tipping into the water.
Gotta make
And buoyancy.
fun. Gotta
on
make
something
fun
that
when you
doesn't
can.
float.
This is just a reminder, albeit a lighthearted reminder that like,
Geography is important.
well, that and your faith should just not be in our politicians.
Oh no.
I don't think that this guy is like, I don't think he's an idiot. He had a bad day, maybe. I don't know.
We've all
or
been there.
or he just
like,
knew nothing about Guam.
Or he knew nothing-
islands.
Or he literally learned what Guam was
Yeah.
that day. He's like, you mean it's a territory? And it's not a state, right?
Yeah.
And they're like, no, sir, not a state.
He
He's like,
should have just stayed silent.
but we
that
own
would
it.
have been better. Like just keep your mouth shut.
We own it, right?
Yeah.
Yes, but it's not a state.
Yeah.
Not a state. We do own it,
I can just
and it's an
picture,
island.
I can just picture his wife at home going, "Oh, honey,
honey.
Oh man.
oh, honey."
His wife is
So
I
like,
told
don't-
you last night.
don't-
I told you last night
don't-
not to bring this
Don't
up.
repeat the width again. Don't repeat it.
Don't
Oh
say it.
gosh.
Please,
All right.
please.
it is, yeah, I just, and that goes for like, this is a bit of a tangent, but
Yeah.
it's a more serious one. Like, I think that's something that's really popular right now in the church is because of the last 5 years or 6 years or however, I mean, you can start the clock. We should start the clock way longer than that. It's just really popular, but it's become popular to say like, oh, our faith isn't in a politician. Our faith's not in a political party.
That started about
Yeah.
a year ago.
Just a year ago. I don't know. I think it started, I think it got real fashionable a little while back.
Did it?
And
Okay.
the reality is like, that's true.
Yeah.
100% true. But I guess what I'm realizing as I observe, even what goes on in my own heart, is that we are really quick to say that line. But then whenever a controversy or anything pops up, we are pretty quick to actually retreat back to those alliances we say we don't have. Right?
Yeah.
Or
Like it's really,
patterns of what we
yeah,
thought.
like it's really easy to say, it's really easy to go on social media and say like, I don't have loyalty to to a party. You shouldn't either. None of us Christians should. We should only think of Christ as our king. We should only this, that, and the other. But then we have to actually be honest and look at ourselves and say, okay, that's true, but I need to actually examine myself
Yeah.
because I might have more loyalties hidden inside me than I would like to give myself credit for. Right?
Yeah.
And
Those loyalties that aren't rooted in anything but the party.
just
Like,
rooted, yeah. Like if their loyalty is rooted in biblical
Yeah.
reason,
That's where loyalties
good.
that haven't been actually fleshed out or anything like that.
It's just I'm just noticing that, and it's easy for us to tell ourselves we've freed ourselves from enslavement to a party when we really haven't. It's
Yeah.
just cool to say it about ourselves.
Well, it's easier. Like, you
Yeah.
know, people just don't want to take the time. And that's something that, you know, I would encourage and like something that I continue to do as I grow up and just take like more responsibility for my household and like for where I align politically. Like you should day by day and like when you're reconsidering, because like all of us kind of grow up with that kind of where we were slanted, I guess.
Yeah.
And we're kind of like aligned. in
You're
one
gonna
way.
have a slant.
Yeah.
You're just going to.
And like by day, like as new things arise and all that, like you should be reevaluating and you should be also putting those things up against your beliefs and the word of God itself. And like how, you know,
Yeah.
how can I reinterpret these things, especially as developments happen today?
Yeah. Were you gonna say something, Jeremy?
I was gonna say that if you sit
Deep
there,
breath.
yeah, thinking about.
By the
I'm
way,
not
Jeremy
even-
trimmed his beard. I just realized that.
you did.
He's
It's
looking
been
good.
about a
It
week
just
ago,
sort of
man.
registered in my
I had
mind.
a funeral to go to, so I had to
Okay.
look fresh.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know, fresh to death.
It'll come
that
back.
was bad.
Go on.
Anyway,
That was a really
That was a bad one.
Yeah.
that's almost as good as the one on the way home from one of our
we don't need-
grandparents.
yeah.
funerals.
Oh.
Anyways,
Gonna be texting the wife.
so
on
going
that one.
through-
Oh boy. Can't wait for
I think that when we go through politics or anything in general, evaluating why we believe what we believe is vital. And like you said, more so now with the ever changing culture.
Yeah.
But having the stance to sit there and say, why do I believe what I believe? Why do I believe it's okay for a Christian to enjoy a beer or not enjoy a beer, or to enjoy certain things and not enjoy other things, have a firearm, not have a firearm, just to name a few things. But like, why do we sit there and say these things biblically? Not necessarily vote because it's the way, say we've always voted red or blue or fill in the blank. But when the party sits there and says, is it putting actual biblical things up or not?
Yeah.
I mean, looking at the track record of the people we're supposed to be putting up, like if we look at, I don't know, the Republicans and all the major things in the courts, most of the court things that we would say are bad rulings in the Supreme Court happened under majority conservative judges. So just like those kind of things, sitting there actually saying
Their name, at least, their name.
in name,
They had an
as
R
being
in it. Well,
conservative. They don't
have a name next to their
judges.
name, but they were nominated by people who had R's next to their name.
Right. So you
Yeah.
sit there and say, if our faith is not in this world or the people in this world, because we know we're all fallen sinners, but in the God who rules over the world, as we discussed in Psalm 2 and Psalm 110,
Yeah.
then we need to live like it no matter what. And that's amid bubbles bursting,
Yeah.
laws changing,
Yeah.
courts packing. Who knows what could happen tomorrow?
And the thing, one of the questions to ask yourself is, who do I always disagree with? Because
Andrew.
who do I find myself being ready to defend, and who do I find myself being ready to attack? Because I saw this a whole lot with a lot of people, and we'll just use I don't know, we can just use current politicians as an easy example. Like, I saw a lot of people that I know that would say like, oh, I don't hate Trump. I just disagree with him. I didn't vote for him. But I would also talk to them and they would find it was definitely the reflex. Like if you kick him in the knee, the reflex
starting
was
point.
hate him.
Yeah.
Right. And then I saw tons of people that would say, oh, I'm not a big Trump fan. I'm not a big Trump supporter. But when they got kicked in the knee, the reflex was, I'm going to defend him. And you're going to have a reflex. What I'm saying is you're going to have a reflex. The question is, are you aware of your own reflex? Are you actually stopping to think, ooh, I do kind of lurch in that direction without thinking about it. I need to get better at evaluating that and like coming back, revisiting it, being circumspect about those things, because we're going to have a reflex. We're going to have thoughts that we will have gotten used to, like growing up in them or just kind of existing. Like you're just going to develop them. And the question is, are you actually submitting those things to Scripture? Are you allowing Scripture to change those things? And not just in the ways that are, I don't know. I guess what I'm trying to say is it's easy to fool ourselves into thinking we've rid ourselves. And like if we grew up in a really Christian conservative upbringing, it's really easy to tell ourselves that we've rid ourselves of all our preconceived notions, when in reality, I've seen tons of people that have really just swapped them out for new ones, and they're just the ones on the other side of the aisle.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
And so what I'm trying to say is that you need to actually get rid of the preconceived notions part. You need to remove that, and you need to replace them with a Bible thing. It doesn't do you any good. We're not any more free just because we pick blue chains or red chains, right?
Yeah.
We're not any more free. Our brains aren't any more free. Our souls are still idolizing things of this world. We need to actually get those chains removed by having Scripture that can unlock those things and set us free. But the danger, and this is what the temptation is. This is how the enemy works against us being more renewed in our mind, is instead of letting us like get free for something, it's also kind of easier to just kind of like push us to a new extreme, right? So like, oh, I messed up. I learned that it was bad to think this way, so I never want to do that again. And then we just overshoot the target, right?
Yeah.
If you're shooting if you're doing target practice, overcorrection, right? If you're putting on a golf course, you putt a little bit short, and then you're like, ooh, don't want to putt short again.
Then you hammer
What do
it.
you do? The next one's past the hole, right? And that's that danger that I feel is really present for people, especially people our age, I think, in the church that want to be biblical. I think there's an honest desire to be biblical in our politics and in talks about justice and stuff. But what I'm saying is, don't just settle for, well, whatever I used to think, I got to do the opposite. Or whatever my parents think, I got to do the opposite. Or what? Yeah,
swings both ways.
It's just not that. Or whatever, oh, I don't like that guy, so I better like the opposite of what he likes.
Yeah.
That's just, it's still childish thinking. We're still being childish.
Well, you're not really evaluating anything. You're just,
Yeah.
It's all reaction. And everything's a reaction.
And it's, again, it is easy for us to get into that position and think that we have done a good job. I have done that. I do that constantly where I do. I'm not saying this as somebody who like has magically done all this. But I'm saying this as somebody who just like, I feel that I see that happen in my own life a lot where I think I'm out of those categories.
Yeah.
And then I realize, ooh, no, I'm not.
Yeah.
I've still got those things hanging around. I've still got those reflexes that need to be tamed in. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yep.
Hopefully that didn't just sound like I was.
No,
I'm not saying everybody's worse than me.
Well,
I think I'm far worse than other people. That's why I bring it up.
I think one of the things you brought up, and I love to hear you guys' comments about how we sit there and talk about, I guess when you talk about putting on old chains versus new chains, putting on taking the old yoke off and the new self, I guess, getting out of those old patterns of how we do everything, not only in politics, how we think, but from a day-to-day operational standpoint of how do I operate when I get out of bed? Am I starting off with a bitter heart, or am I starting off with a grumbling attitude, or am I excited for the day God has planned for me? I guess, how do we get out of those trenches or out of those ruts?
I wasn't ready for ready for that deep question.
Well, and that's what something going back to myself, I've been trying to read more of Galatians daily and James. You consider it pure joy whenever you face trials of many kinds.
Mm-hmm.
Doing that whenever the trials keep coming. I mean, life is getting more and more complicated every day.
Yeah.
Kids, wives, household, work.
Wife gets more complicated every day.
Well, everything just gets more complicated. No, I mean, just in general, not
women.
Not
am I right?
My wife is fantastic.
Your wife, Doc.
Gosh,
not my wife. No.
What I meant was.
But would it be nice to say my wife gets simpler every day? I don't know if that's a compliment either.
Yeah. She's a great, lovely,
my wife
woman.
Is the same
for her.
She is the same.
Anyway,
no,
you sit there and say we're going to do this, and having every day conforming your mind by Scripture, and waking up every morning. And I just know myself sitting there in the days I've reacted to just like I'm waking up, I have to go take care of the kids quickly, versus the days I have to I have time to make sure I wake up, read. Maybe it's only 5 minutes to pray, or maybe it's only a psalm to pray, or it's, some days happen, but I can notice a difference in my own life. Even the joy throughout the day and how much different that is. And I mean, I think that's our only real defense as far as the starting point for how these things can change.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of echo, I guess, as far as starting the day too, with those days where like, the laziness kind of creeps in, and I hit snooze once or something like that, and then it ends up where basically I'm getting up at the same point where Lincoln's wide-eyed and ready to play, and Addie's ready for her first bottle and stuff like that. So then it's like behind the eight ball and we're rushing, and like that just leads to a little. I mean, the attitude definitely changes as far as how you're initially getting out of bed and you're rushed and everything, versus the days where I can get up ahead of time. I can, I can get downstairs, get things kind of in order, get my coffee going, get a little bit of reading in before I go and actually get my daughter up and all that. And then it definitely does feel a whole lot better. And it for me, it just comes down to really the like kicking my butt into gear and not being lazy.
I said I think the thing I thought about that is you said the word reflex, and I think reflex is something that we don't really think about. We think about when we were playing sports. The reflex is, okay, I have to shoot the basketball every time the same way, 100 times.
Yeah.
Every time I training for police officers before we recorded or anything, training for anything, it's a repetition. So I guess if we're
Yeah.
not living in a repetitious environment of trying to improve or learn or grow, we're never going to grow because life is just going to get more distracting, more complicated. More stuff's
Mhm.
going to come up and get in our face from every standpoint.
Yeah. 3 things. One is we were talking about police officers before we recorded. That's what Jeremy's talking about with training them to where their reflexes are good. Second, reflex seems like a great name for a 90, like if you had a youth group in the 90s or the early 2000s, you'd name it like reflex.
You'd have
What do
to
you think
like,
about
you
that?
probably wouldn't have a U in it either. It'd be like
Well,
RFLX.
reflux has a U in it.
Well, I mean, but you probably
reflex
take the
doesn't
vowels
have-
out because it look cooler.
Oh yeah. Well, I was gonna say it'd have a Z in it somehow, right?
You have to
Yeah.
be.
I just wanted to throw that out there. I just wanted to workshop that name. Lastly, and more meaningfully, it does come down in a lot of ways to just being a disciplined person.
Mhm.
And I think that it's easy to be so disciplined that you refuse to show grace to yourself because we misunderstand grace. So we call law discipline, and then we throw it on ourselves. And maybe this is a little bit of what you're talking about in Galatians. Like, we should be disciplined, but we should understand discipline within the context of grace and how grace. John Piper says famously that grace is not just pardon, it's power. So we should understand that grace is actually something given to us to be disciplined. Right. I mean, that's in Titus. I think it's in Titus.
Or
that,
walk by the Spirit.
well, yeah. Well, and in Titus, it says that grace has come and trained, disciplined. That's the same word. Trained us to renounce worldly lusts and desires and to follow the new path of Christ. Like, so grace is discipline in that because of the power of grace in us, we can have godly discipline and live a disciplined, good life. And we need to understand that without turning our life into a sort of a law thing of, I just need to be better. I just need to be more disciplined. And if I fail at all, I refuse to ask for forgiveness and start again. Instead, I get that law sort of perspective on it. But we do need to, a lot of it is just be disciplined. Like it is overcome that initial reflex of selfishness or laziness, or it's easier this way, or that least resistance thing. Overcome that. Just say, I'm not gonna, I know this is better for me. I'm gonna do it. And if you're a man listening to this, it's like, I mean, you got to understand that you getting up, reading your Bible on time, you getting up and then getting back on the ground and praying, you got to understand that it is your job and you must do it. And you don't only need to, sometimes we get a little off track talking about, oh, how was your quiet time? How was your quiet time with God? How's your your this, that, and the other? It's not merely your quiet time, right? Like, you're doing that. You be disciplined so that you can be a good father and husband, because you can't do it without it. And if that's a little extra motivation, it should be, right? Like, it should be a little extra motivation for us. Oh, I don't want to get out of bed and read right now.
Yeah.
I don't feel like praying right now. I feel like sleeping right now. I feel like watching something because I don't want to think. No, I'm going to do this for my kid. I'm going to do this for my kids or wife. I'm going to do this for my own soul. I'm going to do this for my neighbor, for my friend, for my brother. That's your calling. And that is discipline. Anytime. But I guess like we sometimes we do just think about it of like, oh, I better get my quiet time. It's like, no, you're doing something that does actually have an eternal significance.
Yeah.
Not just to give you a positive thought for your day, but literally to equip you to do everything that matters.
There's a book that I want to read, and it's on my list. And I have a stance I can't buy any more books, so I finish one or two more. But and I know AJ
One
of
or
our
two
friends,
more.
One or
AJ
two,
at our
4 or
church,
5.
mentioned it in his letter the other day to our church, a newsletter. The household and the war for the cosmos.
Mhm.
And I've heard good things about it. And the beginning, the name is intriguing. And I know I've heard him, C.R. Wiley, talk about it. And like you were talking about, every day is we don't think about the ramifications of every little thought and reflex of how we live
Yeah.
our lives from
Yeah.
every standpoint, for everything we do.
And one of the other things I thought about, I think is the last episode when I talked about God seemingly like kind of probing on my heart about like anger things, or that verse in Proverbs about backsliding in your heart. And one of the things that I realized, you were talking about, how do we break habits? How do we break those things? It's because by the power of grace in us, we call those sins. This is just speaking in terms of in your mind. You name your thoughts for what they are when they're in your mind. You don't just like when you have a moment where you get angry at somebody sinfully and it's wrong, and you tell somebody off in your mind, you know you're getting angry, it's not right, it's in your mind. You don't merely just like distract yourself away from that thought or just move on and forget about it. You don't just excuse it and say, well, that was, it wasn't really sin, it was just kind of, it was a bad moment or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
We need to actually stop and say, we need to stop and say, that was sin. I just sinned. That was a bad thought. That was not only a sinful thought, it was damaging to me.
Yeah.
It was bad for me to think that. Whether that's lust, whether that's anger, whether that's whatever the heck it is. I mean, those are just the first two that come to my mind.
Mm-hmm.
Just for, I guess as a man, those feel like the first two thoughts that do come to my mind about things that we should, we shouldn't just seek to like survive those glances. We should actually stop and say, that was sin. I need to recognize what it was, because if I recognize what it really was and how bad it was, then that hopefully gives me more motivation to not do that again, to actually break that habit.
Yeah.
Because why do I need to break a habit if it's not really bad, right? I only need to break the habit if it's actually bad.
And every habit becomes easier the more that you do it.
Yeah.
On both sides, positive and negative.
So I guess,
Well, especially if you're just going through your day and you don't, like, a lot of times we don't even think, or we don't really truly need to justify those sins, as far as just like the thoughts that just creep in and creep out throughout the day. And like, we just go right on as if, on to the next thing or on to the next activity that occupies our mind. And then oftentimes we, it's just out, and then we never go back and pause on those things at all. Just with the busyness of our lives. And I think that can be a big thing to actually have. That takes a lot of self-control, and it takes a lot of that discipline that, that's kind of our word for tonight. But it takes the ability to just kind of pause in thought throughout the day, for sure.
yeah.
Totes.
Well, that was totally what we planned about talking about in this episode. That was totally it. So that's a good episode, actually.
I think it went okay.
Andrew?
I think it was pretty good.
All right.
All I'd like to know is I nailed the talking and I recorded at the right time. I didn't say nailed it.
You did.
So-
You did nail talking at the
nailed-
right time.
I nailed my talking points. I
in
think.
that you didn't have to do anything. But you did that
That's how
wonderfully.
I like to live my life.
So if you're listening to this and you haven't done your reading or your prayer today,
Feel horrible.
then either you can stop this now and then go read,
Yeah.
or tomorrow morning get up and get
Yeah.
your reading in.
Just wake
Well,
up 5
and
minutes
yeah, and I
earlier.
mean, just I guess I was talking with Rachel about this last night, and I've been thankful. And this sounds like a holier than thou comment, so just hear it for what it is. It seems
It's
a little
not
bit,
that.
and it's just I think it's it's not that. Trust me, I'm not.
Don't worry, it's not that.
It may be the station I'm in life. Like we're about 10 weeks out from having our first baby. And that comes with plenty of thoughts of like, I don't know how this is going to go. So it makes sense that God at this time seems to really be pressing into me a greater desire to pray more, spend actual time praying for me, for my wife, for the baby. And at the same time, I wouldn't say I've been great about actually following through and doing that yet. But I guess it's been pressed into me. Like prayer is, it's so simple to say, but prayer really is vital. And don't leave it for your wife to do. Don't leave it for the spiritual people in your life to do. Don't leave it for, I don't know, like sometimes as men, I'm just speaking off the cuff here. Sometimes as men, prayer can feel a little inactive and wimpy.
It feels
because
like you're not doing anything.
yeah, and we can, and if we have a picture of prayer in our head that is only like a poetry sort of prayer, like a feminine poetry sort of prayer, then yeah, like it doesn't feel right to do that. But when you like read through the Psalms, you realize you read through the Psalms and you realize like David was like he's a certified 100%. He was a bad dude, right? Like he prayed and he prayed and he prayed and he prayed, and we should see ourselves. And I don't know. A lot of this is verging on like Christian cliches, and I'm not trying to just be like, I don't know. You should see yourself as like, no, my prayer should be something that I am intent on, fiercely, because it matters and it's meaningful and it is a warfare that I'm engaged in.
Well, and especially like we said, it's a calling on behalf. If you're a man, it's calling on behalf of you, your wife, your household.
Don't just leave it for your wife to do that.
You have that responsibility, so take it seriously.
And if you're a wife, listen to this podcast. Push your husband. Say get up. I mean, you can stay on the couch. You don't have to get off the couch, but you better be praying when you're on that couch. And and we should be in prayer for our churches, for ourselves, for each other, for our families.
Country.
We should see that.
Society,
we should see that as
state.
actual. It is actual, meaningful, important. I mean, in Revelation 5, there's a really quick as we close. Revelation 5 talks about the prayers of God's people rising to his throne as incense.
Mm-hmm.
And at one point in the book of Revelation, an angel pours out a bowl that is full of the prayers of God's people. And it's this picture not only of reminding us that God hears prayer, that it pleases him because incense smells good. It's also a reminder to us that like your prayers actually matter. Like it literally, figuratively, literally speaking, an angel's like pouring them out on the earth. Like they're having an effect. You're doing that. And so we should think about prayer as that meaningful. And we should think about discipline as a vital thing for us, to have mental, spiritual discipline that doesn't succumb to laziness or the world's ways, but it rises above all that. So
next week we'll have Jocko Willing.
Next week, I'd love to. Hey,
that'd
you know
be cool.
what? You got a connection with Jocko.
I'll tell him I
Hook
bought
us
his
up.
book and be like, look, I read your book. You should be on my podcast.
What book of his did you read?
I didn't really.
Oh.
But it's in my cart, so that kind of counts, right?
Which one?
He
His
wants to read
Extreme Ownership?
Yeah.
Good.
I have not read it.
Good.
I think I'd like it, but
I'm in the same boat. Like I could just buy it, but I've also listened to him speak. I don't know how many times.
I feel like I've got
I
it.
feel like I've got pretty much all of it nailed.
Most people's
That
books
being
are just
said, I haven't
expanded
followed
versions
through
of
on
their
all of it.
speeches.
Like us, like our book, our collective book, which will be coming out in 2028.
We really should write that book. It'd be
I've already
great.
started it.
It's
Good.
coming.
I'm transcribing it as we speak.
Yep.
Mentally.
Oh, okay. Well, as we wrap up, I've got a recommendation for this episode, and one of you guys can get the next recommendation. My recommendation is a show called Alone. It is on the History Channel. It is so cool. Rachel and I kind of got hooked on it when we were in quarantine. I don't really like binge watch many shows, but it's called Alone, and it's a game show where they literally put people by themselves, separated by like 10 miles from other people in a remote part of the world. They give them 10 items. They have to film themselves, and they have to survive as long as they can in
And then
complete
it's just
wilderness.
last person,
Last man standing.
But not like to the death, right?
Yeah, like they come.
No,
get
they
'em.
pull them out. They
Yeah.
check on them like once a week to make
It's
sure.
not like
Like
Hunger Games.
How
dude.
long?
Yeah.
How long do these people go?
depends. The first season, somebody went for like 60 days.
Oh my goodness!
I think the record. I'm on season.
just getting food off of the wilderness.
Challenge.
Like they're just getting
Challenge.
stuff?
Yeah, you're
Yeah.
fishing, you're hunting, you're
All right.
eating grass.
I
You're
could totally do
I-
that.
What's this on? History?
History Channel. I watched it on
Watch this.
Hulu, but
Which one of us think we could do that? If one of us
Oh,
could do
I
it?
would
0
I would
days.
Not surprised.
I
think
watch
could
these
do it. I think
people.
I could do it too.
I watch these
Maybe
people,
3.
and I think I could last for. I think
I mean-
I don't think I'd sleep a week.
Now I'm gonna.
Yeah, I
but
was
they're
just
getting.
outside.
Yeah, I was like they're getting like crazy, like survivalist people to do this, right?
No, it's people that just want to, like,
Yeah, it's
people
in the
that,
show.
well, people that are survivalists.
Yeah.
They fancy themselves as
Yeah.
a survivalist. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. It's not just like
they're not
randomly
just like
selected.
pulling this guy out of LA.
It's not like
Walmart.
It's not like it's
you.
not like Tiffany who
Yeah.
works at like Orange Leaf, and they're like,
This is a local IT pro, and
Yeah.
he's out. Yeah.
she's 19 and
picked him up
she's
at
gonna
the local
survive.
Micro Center.
We also got a member of the Geek Squad who hasn't been outside in 3 weeks,
hasn't
but
seen
he's
the
gonna
sun.
go.
He's gonna
Ever.
he's feeling really positive about this.
He's got his
Yes.
sunscreen. He should be fine.
He also has a rare blood sugar condition.
Yeah.
He
we
needs.
gave
to,
him a Snickers bar. It'll be fine.
He had to bring 10. They each get to bring 10 items, and like he had to bring 10 Snickers.
Yeah.
That's what he brought.
He gets angry.
But it's pretty sweet.
But he'll last a couple days.
I like watching it. Rachel doesn't like watching it because, in her words, everybody's cold and hungry and depressed, and it makes her feel depressed. And I'm like, I think it's
yeah,
I think it's
but yeah, I was like,
fascinating.
it's a crazy
These,
feat.
I'm watching these people
Yeah.
that I think are just insane.
Yeah.
But potentially in a great way. As like they're just the toughness of people. Some people get on there, they're like super confident, and you're like, that guy's gonna kill it. And after like day one, he like hears one bear walk by him and he's like, I'm out, I quit. And then other people that you think aren't tough
Bears.
at all. There's one
He
dude.
should have brought a gun as one of his
I
items.
won't say you're not allowed. You can bring
you
a bow and arrow and a
okay.
knife. You
Cool,
can't.
I shot one of those ones. Okay.
Yeah, you can take a bow.
But I remember the very first episode I ever watched in season 1. There's one guy that right away, both Rachel and I are like, this guy's out. This guy's not going to lie. And he was second place. He like lasted forever.
Wait, do they get to pick their own items?
You get to pick
Yeah,
10 of
you-
your
Oh,
own items.
10.
I thought they just give you like 10.
No,
They drop
10, but
it.
everybody kind of brings
do they
like you
give
bring a
them-
tarp, you bring
Okay.
paracord because those
Bring
are
your
some of your 10 items.
Bible,
You get the things that are free to you. They give you a toothbrush.
Oh, that's
They
nice.
give you
you know,
the
I'll be
camera.
honest,
They
I'm
give
not
you
worried about brushing my teeth.
they give you batteries. They give you like solar powered batteries and a headlamp and flashlight. Some
So,
flashlight stuff.
Yeah, because they want to film.
Yeah,
stuff
and
like
they
that
and they give you
Film you being
they give you a
Yeah.
bear horn.
You don't want to see this
Yeah.
darkness forever.
They give you a
This
bear
is really
horn.
boring.
Yeah.
You get a bear horn and a bear spray in a small first
bear
aid
spray.
kit.
You know,
This is the mace they
wait,
use on
bear spray
bears.
actually works.
Yeah, it does. Yeah,
Oh, okay.
This
it
is
works
the
better
mace
on
they
bears
use-
than on people. If somebody's on drugs, it does not work on people.
Huh.
Just so you know.
That's true.
Yeah, depending on the drug that you're on, like
That's
if
crazy.
if you're on like a
Special K.
PCP or something like that, or even like
But-
meth, I think there's a pretty good chance that pepper spray and
They
stuff
don't-
does very little.
Oh,
They-
that's true. I think I meant
do-
bear
do
mace.
some of
well,
them, like-
yeah, sorry. I mean, bear's stronger, but
Do some of them
if
like
it's a
bring
bear,
a like as
take
one
out
of
a
their items? Do
person.
they bring a tent or like is that
I think that
something-
counts as an item. I
That
think.
counts as an item.
I don't know.
I don't know if I bring a whole tent.
Well, you don't bring a tent. You bring like a tarp and paracord,
Yeah,
and you
that's
build
and
like
you
everybody's
build a
building.
shelter.
Yeah, they're getting wood and they're building their own.
Yeah, but
shelter.
like if I didn't, I was like if
So
I
you
didn't
have
have
to, like,
use for an
travel to
item, I
somewhere?
just
Or is it
build,
like
bring a
you
nice
I got
tent.
9 things. I'll bring
Yeah.
this stuff.
I'm
You have to
bringing
go to
this
an
tent.
extraction point or literally just survive
I'm bringing
where
an
you are?
inflatable
You just
mattress
Oh,
and a
okay, that's not
tent
as bad.
and
I'm not gonna last long, but I'll
Yeah,
be comfortable.
I'll be comfy.
I got my PS4, TV,
Generator.
I got,
I got
so
10
more-
things.
I got an exercise bike. I can like wire that up. So
you
it
could even
can
have a
go
microwave
and
out there. Go,
Lovely.
come
Make
on.
some popcorn.
Little
Nice
generator.
little
No,
vacation.
no, they just drop people off, and you're out there with a satellite phone. And whenever you're about to die or something, you call them and say,
I would go
"Get me
out
of
there
here."
with like full confidence with
Does
these
Domino's
like big
deliver
heavy
to me?
items and then like not last
Where's the
2 days.
closest
I wouldn't last a
pizza?
minute.
Yeah.
I wouldn't last a minute.
You could last 5.
I could last. I think if I could get through the first night, I could get through. I could
I
get
don't know.
through
I think
2
your
nights.
second night's the tougher night, honestly.
if,
Your
I,
first night,
if I get
you're gonna
through
be
the first night, I could get through a second.
I don't know.
One night at a time, man.
I don't know. The
One
first night could be so miserable that you're like,
yeah,
I'm just done.
Well, I feel like that's crazy dependent on like the weather and where you're dropped at
That's probably
too.
true.
Where like if you get through if you're in the first night there and it's like it's freezing and raining and like you know you just have
Hypothermia
nothing,
Day one.
you have nothing for warmth, then like that, yeah, that's gonna suck. But then like if you have decent weather and you have a decent, you know, like surrounding area
feel
and
like
stuff, then
Kyle
you might be able to
Bafia
do a
could do
couple
well.
days.
yeah, friend of ours, Kyle. I showed it to him because he's a huge camper hiker. He walked the whole Pacific Crest
We
Trail.
did that.
So that's like months where you are camping almost every day. You go into town to like grab stuff, but I showed it to him and he's like, this is like another world compared to me. Right. But he could still do better than
I'm sure
any
you
of
still
us.
do like better than all of us.
I
in
know
this
one
room.
guy. I
It could
worked
last
with
like 3-4 days.
I worked with one guy who wasn't an IT job with me. I worked with one guy who did legitimate camping. I remember on like spring break one year, he went to Shenandoah Forest, spent the whole week. Literally all he took was his dog and things he could fit in one pack. He had a small tent, he had his dog, and he had just like canned soups and stuff. And I remember talking to him because he would be like, he's like, yeah, the average weather will be about this much, and I won't need a fire if I have warm soup at this time of the day, because then my body temperature will be raised because of the soup throughout the night, this, that, and the other. And I was just talking to him like, this is not how I camp.
You're like, this does not sound pleasant at all.
This is
You know, there's a
strange.
hotel, right?
Yeah.
Like this is not how I camp
This
at
is
all.
not
You're
spring
talking about just living.
Yeah, like he's the one guy, and he was in either the Army or the Marines for a while. So he's the one guy I've ever met who I think could actually do it
That's
for a little bit.
insane.
But
Yeah.
that was like his leisure activity. What's going on?
Shenandoah.
His leisure activity is almost dying.
It's in Virginia, right?
Oh, good. I was just worried about Shenandoah tipping
Well,
over.
Shenandoah's in Guam, maybe, so might be completely submerged at this time.
Could be.
Could be.
By the time
Anyway.
this airs, it could be gone.
If we have listeners in Guam, good luck.
Hey,
Buy a boat.
Uh,
if you're listening,
I vote.
invest in a emergency inflatable raft.
Yeah.
People will
Um,
think you're crazy. But that's
I would
the same
love
thing
us-
about Noah.
I'd love for us to be huge in Guam, because then we could like go and do a live show in Guam. Wouldn't that be sweet?
International men.
Three brothers
on
Guaming.
land in Guam.
That's
Would-
right.
Yeah.
On land.
Better do it
Maybe.
fast.
Maybe.
Better
Either
get
way,
there.
I was gonna wrap this up when it was nice and tidy. Now it's pretty large.
It got messy fast.
Either way, this has been Three Brothers Talking. Please do share this with somebody, because we don't really share this with anybody. We just share it with you guys, and then each one reach one style. Send it to somebody that might
Ooh,
like
I like
anything
that.
in here.
Each one, reach one.
We should like coin that. Maybe the church could use that,
Sounds like a really.
That was a cool
it
little
sounds like
phrase.
something
I've never
church
heard
would
that one.
use, if I'm
It's
honest.
original to us. Three Brothers
Alright.
Talking.
Better send it.
It's done.
Okay, good.
We're done.
Did it. Ending.
How far I'll go?
Yes.
Oh, I recorded that.
Did you? That was
Yeah.
pretty.
Are we
Copyright.
on?
That's the
infringement.
new intro
Is that the new
song.
intro?
How far I'll go.
Can we do like the punk
I've
rock
been
version?
staring at the edge
To
of
the water. Long as I can remember.
I don't know any of this yet.
Oh
You
man, you
will.
will.
Yeah, we'll see.
Just wait.
They-
Don't worry. Eventually,
Guys-
if it's a boy, he'll like rescue bots
Actually,
and stuff.
yeah.
This is
Spider-Man in the